Hey, Debbie Cottle here, your host today. I'm welcoming today to the podcast Jamie Killian. Jamie is a relationship coach who specializes in helping you detox your life, your body, your mind, and your soul. She's got a degree in psychology with a cognate and life coaching, and she is also a certified meditation instructor. She's been working for over 30 years with toxic people and partners and been coaching specifically for over 8 years, helping women break free from toxic patterns and toxic partners. Jamie, welcome to High Ticket Woman.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Debbie. I'm just a joy to meet you and be part of this. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So tell me a little bit about your journey into this coaching platform and working with detoxing.
Yeah,
How did
yeah.
you come to that?
Well, mine was a diagnosis. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. Many people are familiar with Hashimoto's and celiacs.
Oh, wow,
Um,
both of them.
what? Yeah, what happened was I had just gone in for some blood work and was telling and explaining to her that I just really tired all the time. And, fortunately, she and her daughter had just gone through this situation. She was a DO, and she was able to kind of troubleshoot and figure out, based on what I was telling her, I really ate well. There wasn't a lot of things that would cause this. So she started digging a little deeper and said, let's do one more test. And she ran that test, and there was the antibodies. And then, started my journey to the gastrologist, where he did discover that. And so then I stopped eating gluten. I started changing my life. I started changing, um, well, with Hashimoto's, it's very funny because you can have a flare up, just because you're stressed, right? And so you can do all of the right things as far as like eating healthy and for a time I took medication that was not helping me. So that kind of gave me even more of a passion to do things holistically. And that's where I specialize. So when I got that diagnosis, I was like, wait, where does this come from? Where does autoimmune come from? And why am I the only one in my family who's been diagnosed with this? Obviously, that's really odd because it is, typically passed down or whatever. And so that kind of gave me a deep dive into the psychological part of it and where autoimmune diseases come from. And so I found a PubMed article that explained 68% of autoimmune diseases are from a significant childhood trauma type incident. So if you score more than 1 on an ACE, which is the adverse childhood experiences, if you score more than I mean, if you have more than 1 that are, you're checking off, you increase your chances for autoimmune disease later in life. And so, well, I took mine with my therapist and I scored like a 10 out of 10. Like she was
Oh,
like, if you could
wow.
be 11, you're 11, honey. You had all of the things. Um, so I thought, and of course that even led me even deeper. Okay, like what childhood trauma are we talking about? Like, because to me, I grew up in that, and to me, all that was normal. Like,
It's normal, yeah.
yeah, I didn't know anything different. So for a child, but I've also discovered that childhood neglect, can be as damaging for a child's brain, a child's development as abuse. Well, I had both. So
Wow.
when I went to Liberty, I finished my degree. I guess that was probably, well, let's see, it was my daughter's junior and senior year of high school. She was my baby, and I was basically about to be an empty nester. And I went to Liberty University, and I finished my degree. I got my psychology degree, and with a specialty or cognate in life coaching. And I started taking some of the tests that they were giving you to give to your clients. I was like taking them myself. One was about, marriage counseling and things like that. And I was taking it and I was like, oh my goodness, this is me. I'm in this situation that I would be counseling or coaching my clients. This is my experience. So it was kind of an eye opening moment where I realized control, manipulation. I didn't even know there was such a thing as spiritual abuse. but there he is.
Mm.
Financial abuse was there. And because it wasn't overt, I didn't see it for what it was. Um, but as I continued to kind of dig a little deeper, do a lot more research, read a lot of books, I was becoming more and more aware that not only was I in a toxic relationship of 28 years, but I was also raised in a very dysfunctional family that would be considered abusive. And because of that, um, I decided it was time for me to make some major changes in my life. I changed my diet, I changed my environment. I divorced my husband at the time. It was very difficult and very uprooting, which actually did cause more flares of my Hashimoto's. But today I can thankfully and gratefully say that by God and by His direction and living my life as holistically as possible, I'm not on any medication. Everything is in remission. I was semi-diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in my lower back. Even that has gone into remission, and I'm able to manage that with just my daily just being really consciously aware. But what that started for me was, how many other women are in relationships that they're sick or think they're crazy? I mean, I remember a time when I thought, I think I might need to check myself into a mental hospital. I told that to my mom, and she was like, honey, you are not crazy. You are not crazy. You are just in a very controlling relationship. And I said, I remember telling her, Mom, I just want to be loved. She said, I know you do, honey. And a lot of it, she has grown a lot too. Um, and she has helped me. And there's been a lot of forgiveness was a huge element of my healing. Forgiveness for my parents, understanding that they didn't know any better. They weren't taught how to be great parents. They had terrible examples as well. So a lot of grace and forgiveness that was given to them, um, that really did a lot of healing for me and restored my relationship with my mom. And so it's just been a beautiful, full circle for me to be able to have the relationship that I wanted with my mom. I mean, everybody could be better. Moms better, whatever, daughters,
Sure, 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 yeah.
but I was telling a friend the other day, even with the autoimmune diseases, even with the toxic relationships, even with some of the damage that has been done by me as well, because I learned toxic behaviors myself, even the damage that's done, I'm grateful for all of it because it's made me who I am and it's made me appreciate things and people and relationships. And I fortunately get to help women understand truth.
Mhm.
And that's my passion. Like, how many other women are there out there that just don't know? So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. That's what I want. I
Yeah,
want to bring that truth to people
yeah.
so they can make the decision, an informed decision for themselves.
I wanna talk with you a little bit about some of this covert abuse. You talked about
Hmm.
overt. So, obviously the flip side of that is covert. And, I'm sitting here thinking about my own life and I don't have a autoimmune disease, but I started developing back pain. Um, well, it's been like 11 years now, and it's this chronic ache in my right hip that I am very aware gets worse when I'm stressed. And the year that I developed this was one of the hardest years in my previous marriage. Uh, I'd say the worst year that ultimately that we still were together another 4 years, 4 years before we divorced. But when I look back on the marriage, I think that year was so tough. I started having this back pain. And, I think sometimes when we think of abuse, we think of like the big flashing neon stuff, right?
Right.
Can you speak to some of the covert kinds of things that we might be putting up with as women, or that we put up with as children, and we look back because someone, when I work with clients, I always ask them a little bit of their childhood history. And, again, the big stuff always comes up, but other people will be like, "No, I had a normal, happy childhood, everything's fine," and yet they have all these issues. What kinds of things do we can we sort of tend to take for granted that are just normal things that really aren't normal?
Yeah. Man, it's so tricky because honestly, that's what kept me stuck for so long because, right,
Yeah.
there was no physical abuse. And so I didn't see it as abuse. And it is tricky because there's so many elements, but if, to address your back pain and other people who may be listening, when your body begins to give you signs and symptoms, that's what they are. Signs and symptoms pointing to something deeper, something's going on. We're not just aging. There's a reason that we're hurting. There's a reason that a diagnosis out of nowhere is given to you. So I believe our body is telling us, "Hey, hello, something's going on that is not sitting right with me. Can you let's look into that." Because like Dr. Bessel van der Kolk is one of my heroes, and he wrote the book The
Yeah.
Body Keeps the Score,
Because
and he talks about that. Yeah, like your body's going to show you when something's going on, and all it is pointing you, "Hey, pay attention." So, um, the covert things can be anything. I mentioned financial abuse. Let's talk about that maybe a little bit. Where you are in a relationship and you don't even know what that person makes for a living because they have kept that hidden from you. They don't want you to know what they make because, if you come to them asking for something or needing something, they can say, well, we don't have the money for that. Well, and you don't know any different. But in a partnership, it should be, it should be full disclosure, transparency as much as possible. Like, I mean, I wasn't wanting to know, like, how much do you make and where do we spend our money? I just wanted to be included in that information. And I didn't have that. Um, there was, okay, another incident that happened, to be more specific, was I was not on the title of the home. My name was not on the
oh,
title.
wow.
I mean, and the thing was, or the loan, which he excused both by saying, well, if something happens, then you're not liable for
Right.
the loan, which actually isn't true. If you're married to that person, you're 100% liable for whatever debt that they have. So, um, but that was that. There was, a lot of, if I wanted cleaning supplies that were above and beyond what was gotten at the grocery store. Like, for example, if I wanted a new machine or something to help clean the house, I had to basically, it feels like making a PowerPoint presentation of all the benefits and why we need this. Like that really, it shouldn't be that difficult to
Yeah.
come to your partner and say, "Hey, I really like this and I really want this. Can we just get that?" Like it, and in the end, it was a cleaning thing, like for
Yeah.
the house, you know.
Yeah. So it's not a partnership is what you're describing. You're
I think,
somebody
yeah.
somebody's over you and they're subjugating you and they're controlling you with money in this situation.
Yeah, and so I think, let's see, her name is Natalie Hoffman. She wrote the book, Is It Me? She has another book out too. I cannot wait to get that one. But she's a Christian woman who helps women understand the church and how the church actually, um, kinda made this problem a little worse because they weren't believing women, and because of the design, it fed into what she calls, this is where I'm going with this, what she calls power over. So when you have that partnership and you have one that is powering over the other, that isn't a healthy way to do relationships. And I mean, especially in the day and times that we are now. Now, I'm not saying that we throw everything. That's why I want to make sure that we are always, and this is when I work with my clients, like I'm empowering them to make their decision based on what they think is best for them. I'm not telling them what to do because I don't know the dynamics of their home. But um so I caution women, like, "Oh, just forget it. Then I wanna be done with this marriage." Like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, we really can get deep and maybe there might be an explanation to it. Like, if you go to your partner and say, "Hey, this is how this makes me feel whenever I'm having to make a PowerPoint presentation for an item to clean the home," something like that. and they are like, "Oh my goodness, I never intended you to feel that way. I'm so sorry. What what can we do?" You're talking together and communicating. That's a partnership because there's going to be times when you're going to feel powered over
Yeah.
both ways.
Both
So
ways, yeah.
it's the communication. So yeah, there was that element.
What about from your childhood? If you go back to your childhood and you look at the way your parents' dynamic
Mm.
was with each other, what are some things that you have helped women realize from what they learned in their childhood that made them go, "Oh, yeah, I am the way I am, my attachment style, the way I
Oh.
show up in relationships with men because of what I witnessed." What kinds of things should women be paying attention to from their childhood?
Here's the thing, you're talking my language now. You're talking my love language because I do believe that every decision we make, especially in relationships like that, it all stems from our childhood. It really does. And yes, attachment style is a huge part of it. I do talk to my clients about that. But here's the cool thing. Like once you learn the tools on how to make those meanings from your past, how it's connecting to the and associating with your present moment. All of that stuff, just by simple awareness, you can begin healing that, generalizing, alchemizing, transmuting, whatever word you want to use,
Yeah.
that unhealed, unprocessed trauma so that you can make better choices. So, some things you would want to look at, obviously, some big T trauma would be like, were you abused as a child, that sexual abuse, that kind of stuff, even physical abuse. As far as like for me, the neglect was such a big factor. But once I realized, like, I remember one of my coaches helping me one day. um, I felt really rushed. I don't like feeling rushed. And I would have like these incredible amounts of anxiety that would come up. So if you're dealing with anxiety or depression, those two things are another good symptom that, hey, there's something. And also my therapist used to say, which you may tell your clients as well, if you're hysterical, it's because it's historical. So there's
I love
something,
that.
yeah, there's something in your past that is causing you to overreact. And I know a lot of people are saying, "Don't tell anybody that they're overreacting." Well, sometimes we are overreacting about something that really shouldn't be that big. But anyways, so my thing is I remember feeling rushed and feeling overwhelmed, and my coach was saying, "So when is the first time you ever felt that?" So we did a lot of inner child work. And this is you can ask yourself these same questions. When did I first feel this anxiety? And if, the way I work with my clients is, obviously we want them to feel safe because their younger child is in control when they're having these overreactions. Um, so we kind of walk through a little dialogue with that. But once you do, you realize, oh, like for me, it was, I remember playing at my grandparents' house and my mom getting upset at me and rushing me to get me out and in the car, and I didn't get to finish playing and putting away my things that I was playing with at my and it was just I don't know why that one thing stuck out, but it was something that made me feel so irritated at my mom because she was rushing me. So now to this day, I get really anxious when people start to rush me or when I'm running behind about something. It's that related story, which really wasn't that traumatic, but in my childhood mind, I made it mean something.
It was impressionable, absolutely, yeah.
So when you get to that, when you ask yourself these kinds of questions, like when did I ever feel that for the first time? What what examples did I have in my life as a child on how relationships are supposed to work? Oh my gosh. And making those meanings and realizing, oh my gosh, I'm doing that today. I'm repeating these patterns. And I was actually just talking about this, but there's a book, It Didn't Start With You. And he is talking about the cellular memories that are passed down from generation to generation from your parents and your grandparents. We carry those memories in our body. That's why the Bible talks about the generational curses being visited on the third and fourth generation
Yeah,
because it's passed down in our
it's
genes.
passed down, yeah. I absolutely believe that, yes.
So
Well, and you
if
you
we
you
can
can see that.
heal that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Go
You can
ahead.
see
Sorry.
that even, like, even if you've somehow been separated from your family and raised by somebody else, you still struggle with certain things, even if you can't explain it. That's what's going
Yep.
on, yeah.
Yeah, which throws the whole, when we talk about the nature versus nurture,
Yep,
as psychologist, I know that that has been a big topic. But when you look at this new research showing that it's it's super relevant. But I always tell my clients because it can feel overwhelming. They can be like, "Oh my gosh, I had terrible examples. My parents were terrible. And my mother married 4 times, and my dad, cheated on my mom, and my every male." And see, that was another thing. Every male that was a significant person in my life had had an affair. So I had major trust issues
absolutely. Yeah.
because these were impressionable people that meant a lot to me that chose to do something that was against, a commitment that they made. So, sometimes, but becoming aware of that, making those relationship connections, there's your first step. I always say you cannot heal what you cannot feel. You cannot heal what you cannot see. Once you become aware of that, then we feel what that feels like. We can begin to heal those traumas, and you can actually call in the relationship that you've always desired because you're not looking for that other person to meet your need per se. You are really able to give that to yourself in that moment. So, yeah, these are all connections that I work with my clients. And I know you probably do as well, but these are things to be aware of, especially if you're on the cusp of starting a relationship or ending a relationship. You want to become aware of your own stuff before you just like make really powerful decisions that are going to affect your future.
So tell me how forgiveness plays a role in healing the physical manifestation of all this covert or sometimes overt abuse and trauma that we've experienced in our lives.
That is a tricky question. And the reason I say that is because Dr. Ramani just did a talk about this where there is new research out that's showing that when, especially the church, has been so adamant about forgiveness, you must forgive your offender. When you do that to a person who is not there in their journey, they're not ready to forgive. They're still very, very angry. Like when you have these really, really toxic people like narcissists, these people are just, and sociopaths and psychopaths. How can you forgive these people when anger is what is keeping you safe some of these times? If a woman or a man, but honestly, we know that the percentages of women
Yeah.
is pretty great
Yeah.
where we're yeah. But if a woman is made to feel that way, actually there's more shame, there's more guilt piled onto her already shame and guilt that's keeping her stuck in these relationships or stuck in not healing her own stuff. So I say two things. Forgiveness is freeing. It will literally change your life, but only when you're ready. Only when you're ready to do the forgiveness part. And for me, like I expressed to you earlier, my mom and I have a beautiful relationship. My dad and I have a beautiful relationship. I have a great relationship with my kids. And, you know, I just feel like it's more, and you'll hear preachers say this too. Forgiveness is for you, not the perpetrator. Sure, absolutely, it's freeing. Um, but caveat, but some people need to hold on to that to feel protected until they feel safe enough to be able to release all of their stuff. So, um, one thing I did that helped me was I did a Daniel's fast. So no bread, no wine, no meat, and for 21 days. And every time I would, prepare food or whatever for the rest of the family, I would go and pray because I had some major unforgiveness for my stepdad and my, at the time, stepdaughter. And those two they were very similar unforgiveness. So I was like, I gotta get free of this. It's killing me. It's causing me so much bitterness. I don't love who I am. So I did the Daniel fast. I would pray, and then I would come and eat my vegetables, and drink my water. And and it helped me so much to be able to cleanse my body because I do believe this is, you know, a holistic approach to
Yeah.
healing your trauma. Like looking at what you're eating, getting your body so clean, getting your mind. That's why meditation is such to me, a powerful proponent of healing because when we can calm our nervous system, when we can calm our mind, our thoughts aren't just like ruminating and driving us and making us so crazy. When we can learn tools to do that, then your body does feel safe enough to start bringing up some of these topics so that you can look at them from a whole perspective. Um, and not feel so dysregulated in your own body because your body is fighting for you, but also against you whenever you're in these patterns of unforgiveness, resentment, bitterness, hatred, anger. All of those things are signs and symptoms.
What you're saying is so critical because, at least with people that I work with, we're often in such a place of blame, blaming where we're at in our lives, blaming our circumstances, our health problems, our money problems, whatever they are, on circumstances, on other people, on our dysfunctional childhood, or our cheating husband, or whatever the situation is. And I think that crossroads where we come to often many times in life, that crossroads where we have that opportunity to take a different path, it has sometimes what brings us to that point is a critical change in our health, right? Or a critical change in our circumstances, and we have to go, "Okay, I'm here. What am I going to do about it?" And I need to pay attention to what my body's telling me, or what my financial situation is telling me, or what my pattern with men is telling me, et cetera, et cetera. And when we can do that, when we can say, "It's up to me to take this new path. It's up to me to figure out how I got here, but how I'm gonna change this," then whatever hit our awareness, whether it was our health or our money or whatever it was, whatever woke us up, I guess, to the fact that we need to be on this different path, that yes, everything's integrated. And everything is information that brings awareness to us of, you're saying it better than I'm saying it, but that awareness of like, I'm this back pain I'm having, it's connected. It's connected to something else.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. I appreciate you saying that and kind of summarizing that. But it is definitely when you hit that crossroads, that's when it's time to make your decision. But that that turning inward,
Yeah,
looking at self, looking at past, looking at what am I what is causing this? Like this limiting beliefs? Is it limiting beliefs? Is it
right.
core value stuff I need to look at? Is it what I've been told I was or I'm telling myself that I am? All of this is right. I love how you said it's all just information. And everybody has a crossroads and you're right. You can stay stuck in the victim blame shifting it's everybody else's fault that I am this way or in this circumstance or in I just, and to be honest, my generation, I'm 52. And so my generation does has done that a lot. We blamed a lot of our current circumstances on our parents, and I'm just not for that anymore. Like I said at the beginning, our parents were just doing the best that they could. We are doing the best that we can. But it's our responsibility to look at ourself and where we are in our life and figure out if we're going to do something about it or we're going to keep living in that. Like we can continue to be emotionally unavailable to ourselves and to others, or we can step up and take responsibility and make the changes, do the inner child work, do the healing, figure out where all these patterns are coming from, and make different choices. I mean, I know it sounds simple. It's not. It's very challenging.
It's a journey for sure. I love what you said earlier though about being grateful for everything you go through. And that's such a biblical principle, right? Like, count it all joy when you go through
Mhm.
suffering. This is a tough thing, and I'm sure you deal with this with women that you work with. We can have such a transactional view of God. Like, I'm doing my part, God. I'm talking to you. I'm praying. I'm going to church. I'm doing whatever I think I need to be doing in my relationship with you. I'm living a good life. Now, how come I'm suffering? How come I don't have the man of my dreams? How come I'm having this health challenge? How come I don't have any money in my pocket? Um, and And then that, of course, erodes that relationship, but it also it 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 leaves us with this frame of mind that's so unhealthy. So because we become resentful, right? And um, gratitude is the opposite of that. Gratitude is being able to say, you know what? Whatever I go through, whatever I experience in my life, it's been an opportunity for me to learn, to grow, to see what I'm capable of becoming. You know, the resilience and the perseverance, the grit, the determination. None of that happened by sitting on the couch living an easy life.
Right. Everything is an opportunity.
Yeah.
Every single thing you've ever been through is an opportunity. And, you know, naturally, I think I shared with you, I scored such a high on the ACEs. I also scored a high on the resiliency test because
Yeah.
and so I'm saying that to say I'm a naturally optimistic person,
Yes.
but, um, I just I just believe that bitterness sucks the life out of you. And I could sit like what you're talking about. I could sit and feel sorry for myself. And to be honest, let me just say this real quick because I think what you touched on is important to say as a believer, as a Christian. I did all the things. I was, I thought I was a great wife. I did all the things I was supposed to do. I became who I thought that person wanted me to be. And I lost myself in the process. But I taught Sunday school. I taught children's church. I did, the choreography for the children's music. I did it all. Sang in the praise team taught ladies Bible studies. I was the leader of the missionary thing. I did all the things, and I was miserable, miserable. I but here's where that came from. And so you want to talk about your childhood stuff. I believed that God could only love me if I was performing for him. Performance-based love. That also extended out in my relationships. Oh, people only like me if I'm doing for them. I must keep up whatever they want, whatever. And what that did was I lost touch with who I was, and I did become resentful of God. I really did. I was angry at God, because I was like, I'm doing all the things and I'm unhappy and I don't feel blessed. And I honestly,
It's not fair.
yeah, oh, it's not fair. That was such a big, big one. But my thing is, I am closer to God today in my walk than I've ever been in my life. And I have church sometimes, just me sitting, out looking at the water with my Bible open, and sometimes not with my Bible open. Sometimes just listening to the birds sing and just being grateful for this moment. But I call them God wings. God gives me and does things for me that it should not happen. It should not happen. Like, and it blows my mind. So I attribute every blessing to God. And I think that, and every negative experience.
You're
Be
going where I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Every blessing, everything good in my life comes from God. Every gift I have, every ability I have comes from God. But every struggle I go through, even though I don't personally believe that God necessarily puts me in those situations, sometimes I
right.
put myself in them.
Sure.
Sometimes the actions of somebody else puts me in those situations, but that God never lets me be in a situation that I can't learn and grow from.
So it reminds me of the scripture when Joseph was thrown into the well and his brothers approach him and he's like, "What you guys meant for evil, God intended for good because the whole
Yeah.
Israelite nation just got saved because I was in this thing."
I love that you used that story because I think about Joseph often,
Yeah,
and the Bible just gives you like a very abbreviated version
I
of
know.
the
Yeah.
story, right? But you gotta think, what did Joseph go through? I think he was in prison like 13 years. What did he go through to ultimately get to the point where he got clarity on why he was there and that God was still with him? I mean, there had to have been a season of like, why am I here? This isn't fair, and this isn't what I dreamt, and how could my brothers do this to me? So we go through that. We go through these phases of it's not fair. It's why did this happen? God doesn't love me. And sometimes I think it's when we get out of a situation and we look back over our shoulder and we go, "Okay, that's why. That's why God let me go
1,000%.
through that." But
Yep,
we don't always look back and reflect, and I think the people who do that are the people who can find gratitude in every situation.
absolutely. And you know what? Um, we must remember that God is a jealous God, meaning he wants our full commitment. And if there is something, anything that you are putting above him, it's an idol. So whether it's a relationship, whether it's drugs or alcohol or TV or food or whatever, or shopping, whatever it is, he will remove that because he wants you. He wants your heart. He wants you. And that's like, I just feel like sometimes he speaks to me in such like, he calls me baby girl, but he's like, baby girl, I will remove everything out of your life until you can give me fully you. And he's gonna do that because he loves us. He wants that fellowship with us. And to be honest, I wouldn't want it any other way. Like, I don't wanna
Yeah.
serve a God who doesn't want my full worship, my full attention, my you
Right.
know?
Like you're
That
an
that's
afterthought, like, "What? Who's Jamie? Oh, yeah, Jamie."
ex exactly. Like,
Right.
that's so true. Oh, I love that. I just got chills when you said that. Yeah, we're not an
Yeah.
afterthought. We're his primary focus, his most beautiful creation. And I don't know how I think we're probably getting
Oh,
close,
yeah.
but I wanna
That's
make
good.
sure that I say this. Um, I don't know how people do it without God. I don't. I don't know how people go through toxic relationships, go through abusive situations, go through childhood trauma. I don't know how they do it because, you know,
There's no meaning
every
to
s
it then.
oh, wow. Yeah, yeah, that's what that makes them feel like, that there is no meaning, and here's the thing, that's not true. God uses everything.
Everything. Absolutely.
Every
Every
experience you've ever been through, nothing is wasted. So, I mean, if you don't have a relationship and it's not about going to church. It's not. It's not about how many times you read the Bible. It's about a relationship. People used to tell me that all the time, "Mommy, relationship? I know who God is." No, he's talking about unapologetic, um, giving all. That's what he wants. And
there's a difference between knowing about God and knowing God,
yeah,
right?
that's so true. And isn't that what you want in every relationship? Like, if you're in a relationship with a person, don't you want their whole heart? You don't want half of it.
Yeah.
You don't want just a little
Yeah.
portion of it. That's the way
Yeah.
he loves us, so he wants that in return. And anyways,
Yeah.
I'm just really grateful because
I
many
love your
that I work with.
passion. I love your
Oh, thank
passion
you.
about this, and honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, we could keep talking. We'll have you back because, there's a lot more to talk about here, and I just really, really appreciate how much you've shared. I think there's so many women who will potentially listen to this who go, have I gone through things that I didn't even realize were abusive because I and I'll just say this in passing. As a therapist, I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I didn't see abusive things in my first marriage because the people I was working with seemed so much worse than me. Because
Yep.
again, I was seeing the big glaring neon types of abuse. So I always stacked up my relationship next to those going, "Oh, well, mine's not so bad." And we can do that in our lives. So anybody who's listening, I think what Jamie is saying here is so key. If you are struggling in some way physically and you need to detox physically, don't don't assume that that's all you need to do. You need to understand that your body is sending you signals that something else is going on and you need to pay attention to it. Jamie, how can women work with you? Where do we send them to?
Yeah. So, I have my website, which is healthyhumanhappylife.com. There's I wrote the blog there. There's a lot of information there. Everything on social media is Healthy Human Happy Life. And then um, I have my new proprietary method is called the Healthy Love Method. So you can do the healthylovemethod.com and you can book a call with me and we can have a quick consultation to see, an assessment to see where you are if you need to detox your body or your mind or your soul or all three of those places. But the healthy love method is probably the best way to get a hold of me. And then my name on Facebook is just Jamie K, JamiKay.
Awesome. So the healthylovemethod.com for listeners, and we will put that in the description for today's
Perfect.
episode. Jamie, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you
And
so much, Debbie. I'm so glad to meet you.
yeah, likewise. And for listeners, if you haven't gone and grabbed my free guide, The 10-Step Relationship Rescue Roadmap, go to debbiecaudle.com and check out the freebies under the freebie tab. There's a whole bunch of free resources out there as well. We'll see you on next week's episode. Thanks for joining us. That's it for today.